So before this video begins, I'm going to clarify that yes, this is an entirely new game on my channel, and yes, I'm aware that my upload schedule on this channel is pretty much down the fucking drain. But I assure you that I am trying to get some shit together. And I was actually planning on making a video, but unfortunately, the audio did not record at all, so I pretty much had to fucking scrap it and make something new entirely. So with that out of the mind, this is a review for the Rose Thorn Apart Legendary Upgrade. I do plan on making a review for the other legendary upgrades and for the wizard character, but as I said, since I was going to do both of those in one video, but since they didn't record, I pretty much had to scrap it. But now, the Thorn Apart Legendary Upgrade for the Rose. I'm just going to answer this question bluntly because I've been seeing a good amount of people asking this question. Is this legendary upgrade OP? No, I really don't believe it is. And that's hard for you to believe, but I'm going to be explaining to you why I don't think it's OP. For the first reason why I don't believe it's OP, it's the fact that it costs 5 points. That's pretty expensive, especially for the Rose, considering all of her amazing other upgrades that she has available for this character, such as Combat Ura, Time Snare, and the Locked and Loaded upgrade. As well as maybe you could throw in an argument for the Speedy or even the what's it called, the Hard Target upgrade. All those upgrades I just mentioned are very, very solid for the Rose, and the fact that you're not going to be able to put them on because of the Thorn Apart upgrade is really, to some extent, is going to hinder this character's viability. Another thing too you have to keep in mind is that you actually cannot aim or zoom in as a Rose, as that mechanic has basically been switched out with the Thorn Apart upgrade. Because instead of aiming down the zoom, you're essentially going to be launching all of your orbs, and you can have up to 5 of them at a time, which each do 25 damage. So in total, you'll be doing 125 damage, which is a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, but one thing you got to keep in mind, and if you look over to the right of the crosshair, it fills up quite slowly, as you're gonna see. And there are ways to speed this up, such as using your abilities or reviving teammates. But as far as that I'm aware, those are the only ways you're gonna be able to speed it up, essentially. I don't know how long it essentially takes, because I haven't done the math on it yet. Quite honestly, I ain't much of a math person myself, but it's a very long time. You can just take my word on that. Another thing that you also have to keep in mind is that this is the Rose that we're talking about, so obviously she's not going to be a damage dealer. She is very much so a support character. And this ability essentially rewards you for being a good Rose player or being a good team player. And that's the one thing. Unless you're actually maining this character, very good chance that you won't be able to use this upgrade or use this character to its full potential. Because I'll say it myself, I'm not a Rose player, not much of one at least. I try to play the character, but it's just not my favorite character. Even in Garden Warfare 2, when I knew how good she was of a character, I still did not play her all that often. And it's the same thing goes for this game. But besides that, another thing you have to keep in mind about the Thorn Apart upgrade is just like many of the homing weapons, like the Space Cadet or the Cant missile for the 80s action hero, is that if there is some form of a obstructive cover, or even just like a boulder that covers a portion of the enemy, it's a good chance that most of your shots, if not all of them, will get completely cock blocked by the cover, which can be very frustrating, especially if you just worked really hard just to get all 5 of your orbs, to have them essentially cock blocked by, cover that's essentially knee height or even half their height of your enemy. Another thing too that you will actually want to keep in mind is that wizards and scientists really can ruin your potential or ruin your damage output with this upgrade. Because with wizard, depending on which character he attaches himself to, you're not going to be able to get a one shot on him. And that includes pretty much anyone who has a more than 100 health. So if you're playing as Imp, you're still gonna die to this thing. And same thing with Scientist. With the overheal, even though it just got nerfed, it still will allow you to survive most of the shots, depending on what character you are. And that's another thing too that you have to keep in mind. Is if you're playing a tanky character, it's most likely you will never finish off a tanky character unless they've already been pretty hurt. Those includes the All-Star, along with the 80s action hero, and then the Super Brains. And with those, a lot of those characters actually have movement abilities or even shield abilities that can pretty much block all of your shots, which can really hinder your performance. Another thing too that you will actually have to keep in mind, and this is actually goes for mainly this character, because with other homing characters, I feel like this problem isn't as bad as for them as it is for Rose. Enemies that get too close to you messes up your homing ability for some reason. Like if they get like right up in your face, like literally like breathing in your face, like you could smell their own stink breath. For some reason, your shots tend to either just not register or just disappear completely, which can really frustrate you and get you killed. And then lastly, one more reason on why I don't believe it's OP is a little thing I like to call the paranoia effect. For those of you who have played the Torchwood and or Chompers in Garden Warfare 2, you'll know exactly what this feeling is, to where if someone spots you or if the enemy team spots you, they drop everything they're doing and they immediately go for you, and specifically because you're such a threat and they don't want to have to deal with you, basically you killing any of them to begin with. A similar thing happens with the Rose. Since you can't really hide the fact that you have Torn Apart because you have these orbs floating around your head, it becomes very clear and very obvious that you have the Torn Apart upgrade. And for most players, obviously they don't want to get one-shot by this thing, so a lot of them will just drop what they're doing and immediately just go after you and make sure you don't cause any troubles. And it can either be just either one guy, or you could have a couple immediately going after you because they see that you got Torn Apart. And to an extent, I can't really blame them for wanting to get rid of you, because it is kind of annoying to get one shot by this upgrade, so I guess I can understand the reason why they would want to target you. But with that out of the way, those are my reasons of why I believe this upgrade isn't overpowered to an extent at all. Now I know it just sounds like I'm just hating on this upgrade, naming a lot of counters. I don't. If anything, I actually think this upgrade is very powerful and it can even be deadly actually, in the right hands. And to an extent, I can understand why people would see it as overpowered. But when you take these counters into consideration, as well as the fact that they're actually pretty common counters, like they're not over the top at all, it can actually be a somewhat easily countered if you know what you're doing. But if you don't believe me, I'm actually going to be cutting the commentary so you can watch some gameplay of me trying to use the Torn Apart, and to an extent they just fucking, doing horribly as I always do. But then again, what's new? But with that in mind, overall, this upgrade isn't bad. It's not OP, but if you know what you're doing, you can definitely fuck some shit up. But yeah, I'm just gonna be quiet and I'm just gonna cut to some no commentary gameplay. Enjoy.